Hi, everybody. My name is Brett Reeves. I'm here representing Bequant. We're a crypto prime brokerage that involves basically trying to replicate traditional prime brokerage, but in the digital asset space. So we provide direct market access to multiple exchanges. We provide different custody solutions, OTC trading, capital introduction, and financing as well. And we're here today because we've recently announced a partnership with Finery Markets, and we're going to have a discussion around that and what we're looking to do in the future.
Hi, I'm Ryan Orton from Finery Markets. Similar path to you. So I did 20 years in TradFi, working for some of the largest institutional players like Visa, JP Morgan and Barclays. But in lockdown, I guess I got completely involved in the DeFi space, started getting involved in crypto myself, and it led me to Finery Markets, where I've now been for 17 months. So Finery Markets is an institutional execution venue. It's a marketplace that connects makers to takers, and we've formed a partnership together because we think that the prime brokerage solution just sits perfectly in the middle.
Great, and we're here today to have a discussion about that partnership and looking forwards to the future.
Brett, we both joined this industry in 2022, and it's certainly never been dull for either of us since I joined. We had last year Luna, followed by 3 Arrows, the year rounded off by FTX, and then we started getting the banks collapsing towards the end of 2022, the likes of Silvergate and early 2023. I feel that might scare off some institutional players to the market, or it will certainly make them put plans on hold. So how do you think forming a partnership together with what we do will give institutional players the confidence to come into this market? For example, your traditional FX companies.
Yeah, look, it's a great question, and I think the industry didn't exactly help itself out in 2022 after a good couple of years. I think we've got this kind of inflection point of a number of participants have been calling out for regulation for a number of years. Others maybe not so keen on it, but obviously willing to adopt it. And I think we've definitely seen a delay in the institutional adoption of crypto up until maybe the last couple of months, where obviously we've seen some big news announced recently with the likes of BlackRock and other participants looking to offer Bitcoin-related ETFs. So hopefully those participants are starting to come back. But the idea that we've always had is building a traditional styled prime brokerage platform that we see in those normal financial markets. We don't see any reason why it should be any different. And we want to, we went actually and became regulated in Malta a number of years ago. They were the first regulator to start adopting crypto regulation. And that's something we want to embrace. And obviously the idea with MiCA is we can then passport throughout Europe when the MiCA regulations come into place. Ahead of that regulation coming in, we believe striking partnerships with the likes of Finery Markets, yourselves, and other institutions to try and provide a show of strength in the marketplace and provide that security around trading some of these assets is vitally important to give that security to participants to be able to trade their strategies, hold their assets securely, and act in the crypto marketplace accordingly. Obviously, 2022, there was a huge amount of turmoil. We saw 3 Arrows, we saw Luna, Celsius, Voyager. Later on in the year, FTX, and obviously at the start of this year, we've seen some of those crypto banking providers in the US fall by the wayside. Not all related to crypto on that front, but obviously a knock-on effect to the rest of us. How do you see the market at the moment, and how do you see partnerships such as ours evolving the marketplace?
Well, I think our partnership and the likes of it is vital. I think it's important that you keep all of these services separate, but prime brokerage covers many of them. But I think the problem with the likes of FTX is you should never have your execution venue as such being your custodian as well. With that can never happen again. We've seen it, but to the collapse of the tune of 25 billion. So I think it's very important to be trusted and to take the best of the TradFi world and take it into the DeFi space. And that means separating the likes of execution from custodian, so that you form partnerships between ourselves where a prime broker might do the clearing, the settlement, the risk management. I think what will draw the institutional players in is if they know they've got someone that can control their risk and can control their risk across all of their assets, including their digital assets. And that's what I think is the line that crosses over. And I think when you get a partnership like ours, where we've now kind of added OTC liquidity to your exchange liquidity, and you've seen that's following the lines of what the FX markets, etc., did 20 years ago. So I think it's following a pattern, but to your point, we know we work in a DeFi space, okay, but until, to your point, you get some form of regulation to the DeFi space, I don't then really think we're going to see the lift off that it's absolutely capable, and it's coming, right? You and I see it every day. There's more and more going on with the regulation. So once that gives the big players the comfort, I then think we'll see the real influx and the real money, so to speak, enter our industry.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's just a different asset class, and we can apply a lot of the same rules to it. And that's where collaborating and working together will help evolve this marketplace and make it look and feel more like a traditional asset class going forwards.
And let's look at it from a security point of view as well. DeFi gives people more security. I know that kind of contradicts what we've been saying about 2022, but that was different. If you look at the underlying tech is great. It can tokenize quicker than ever before. You can do international bank transfers, so to speak. If you're using blockchain technology and you're using crypto, you can do it quicker and cheaper than ever before. So I think the DeFi space just has the speed and the technology to give the security through smart contracts on blockchain that will bring into it the institutional players. They're going to want to enter the market. And if you look at them now, they're all looking at what they should be doing in the Web3 space and our space specifically.
Yeah, I mean, DeFi arguably stood the test of 2022. Auto liquidations. There was no human element involved in terms of borrowing, over borrowing, or not collateralizing or not meeting payments. It auto liquidated people and it behaved as it should have done. So, arguably DeFi stood up, and the CeFi traditional element is the one that fell down, and that's what we're trying to really make sure we provide security around.
Brett, I've, like I said, been in the industry 17 months. I've been to many conferences around the world, and there's so many pretenders in this space saying that they're a prime brokerage. But when I then go away and look into the services that they offer, they might be offering one facet of prime brokerage. What do you see as being a true prime brokerage, and what services do you think you should be offering?
Yeah, look, it's a great question, and there are a number of, pretenders out there. And I would say, even when I was looking at moving into the digital asset space, I was looking around the industry, and there seemed to be hundreds of prime brokers. And I didn't understand that, because in traditional markets, which are much more evolved, there aren't hundreds of them. There are a lot, but not that many. And so the way I always look at this is, what is prime brokerage in the traditional sense? Because that's what we're trying to do here. And ultimately, it falls to two main concepts, which is execution and financing. So how do we provide those two elements? And then what are the ancillary services that go behind it? So from an execution standpoint, we provide direct market access. So we provide connectivity to 12 centralized exchanges and 2 decentralized exchanges. And that's building all the time. We're adding more and more participants. Separately, on the execution side, we have OTC capabilities, and that's where our relationship comes in. So we have a desk that will help with client orders. We don't do any prop trading as a prime broker. That's not something that's suitable. It's not something our clients would necessarily like to see. And so that OTC function is very important for those larger trades, those block transactions that people are looking to execute. Once people are starting to trade and we're giving them access to all these different venues, we then overlay that with financing. So we will lend coins to clients and we'll borrow coins from clients as well. And that lending is in a slightly more controlled manner than other participants in the market. Whenever we lend our assets, we always have visibility over them. We always see the wallets that they're deposited to, and they're only able to move to other whitelisted wallets. So we always have line of sight, and our risk managers can therefore discount the exposure that they're trading versus the collateral that they're posting. That's the main fundamentals of prime brokerage. Once we add on other services such as our risk management capabilities, such as our cross-margining capabilities, we then have a full-service capital introduction product whereby asset allocators can go and find hedge funds that they want to invest in to get their exposure into the digital asset space. That's what we're starting to look at as being an all-encompassing prime broker. Obviously, post-FTX, there's been this flight to custody. Now, if you're just going long an asset, that's very easy, just to buy it on an exchange and move it off exchange into a custodian. But if you're a hedge fund where you're actively trading strategies, that doesn't always work. You still don't want to leave your assets on an exchange. And as you mentioned earlier, that needs to be separated like we see in the traditional asset class. So as a prime broker, we are client-led. We don't want to push products onto the clients. We want them to tell us what they want. And so we were exploring this pre-FTX, but obviously accelerated it post-FTX, looking at different custody solutions. So whether that's a Copper Clear Loop or a Zodia custody, Fireblocks' off-exchange solution, or even the likes of Fidelity and Boney that are looking to push into the space as well, we'll look to adopt those. We're also working with other venues like Clear Token, who are trying to establish a central clearinghouse or a CCP in this space as well. So that's what I see as being an all-encompassing prime broker, and that's what we try to do. There are other participants that may cherry-pick the products that they use, and in some cases that might work well for some people in the market. But if you really want a full-service product, then I think you need to look at ourselves and a few of the our competitors out there, and look at the relationships they're establishing and how we can build that institutional flow in this marketplace. And I think the partnership that we're running with you helps demonstrate our capabilities and the commitment that we have to this space. Ryan, how do prime brokers fit in with Finery Markets' vision of the digital asset space, and how, obviously we've struck up a partnership, how do you see that progressing longer term? And clearly you're not just going to use Bequant, there are other providers out there that you'd like to partner with as well. How does that evolve for you at Finery Markets?
Well, Finery Markets was built by people, by a collection of people. The co-founders have got a TradFi background, and the tech team are all in the DeFi space. So it's kind of like bringing together the best of both worlds. So I think we always envisaged the marketplace that we were building, connecting takers and makers, to have the prime brokerage sat there in the middle. So I really think that this connection is the start of something great, because in terms of every conversation I've had since I've been here, if a client like an asset manager or a hedge fund wants something more complex, they want to be able to manage the risks that you were saying. And now with the partnership that we've formed with you as a master, you can now really control without us seeing your end client at all. You can set up all your sub accounts on the other side, and you can really set limits on their risk so that they don't get into trouble. They can set their own limits as well, but you can kind of set it at like a global level, so to speak, and down to the liquidity providers that we have on here, so that you're kind of managing their risk and your overall risk together. So I think we kind of built it that it was always going that way, and it was built to be not just an execution venue, but a real risk management tool. And then you've got the other side that you guys are doing as well with the clearing and settlement. Mm-hmm. It just means that through a single connection, to what we have now, so to speak, with this partnership, because we've already built the API connection to each other. I feel it's just easy for clients on either side to now get into this space and really consume the services with the deep, firm OTC liquidity that we now give you. That's different to OTC, right? So it also means that you've got less risk exposure, and so is your end client, because OTC desks give a credit line, whereas you can't get that on an exchange. With an exchange, you've got to put 100% of your collateral there. You then trade, and you're trading fiat maybe for crypto, or crypto to crypto, but basically you've got to put up 100%. So I think with the OTC liquidity from our market makers on this side, I think that adds another layer to the partnership that we're forming and to managing the risk on that side.
Yeah, and I think that's a very valuable part of the relationship, isn't it? I think we've had this kind of exchange access for a number of years now, but the OTC side's been a bit fragmented, and what you're doing is really bringing it together to a singular point where, as you say, you've got multiple liquidity providers kind of coming into your system, to your product, and channeling all of that into one place. So it's much easier for different clients to access that liquidity in one single venue.
And I think what does differentiate us, and now you with that service that you consume, is that we only post, so our liquidity providers are posting firm liquidity. Yep. So it's not subject to last look or rejections, so that when you and your clients want to buy and want to execute, you can execute right there and then.
Yeah.
Brett, so I'm guessing Bequant went out to the marketplace to look at various platforms that they could connect to. I think since I've been here, well, definitely since I've been here, FM Liquidity Match has been by far the biggest development we've had. I believe it really moves the needle, and I'm guessing you do too, but you would have had to have gone through a process. So what led you to Finery Markets and FM Liquidity Match?
Yeah, it's a good question, and you've hit the nail on the head there. We can't just go and use any service provider in the market. We listen to our clients. We're client-led in our approach, and whenever we went out to people, kind of post FTX, we looked to accelerate our OTC offering. And when we did that, we went out to those clients and said, who do you use? Who do you think's good? And so on. Basically ran a mini survey, and Finery Markets came up time and time again. So we started doing our due diligence. We looked into it. It's got a robust technology stack. Our developers liked the way it could integrate the fix API connectivity. And then from a business perspective, the amount of coins that can be offered. And all of these pieces just came together in a kind of, I guess, an internal RFP that we kind of ran. And it ticked all the boxes. And it looked like best-in-class technology that we wanted to adopt for our clients. And as we went through the process of integration, it stood up, and we do believe it's best-in-class technology, and that's what we want on our platform, and that's what we want to provide for our clients. Ryan, how has the relationship between Bequant and Finery Markets changed kind of any of your processes for clients so far? I appreciate we're early in this relationship, but how does that change things? And maybe what's the onboarding process for a client, both on if they came to you directly or if they come through a prime broker?
So I think it's made it even easier now going through Bequant. So originally a taker would come to us, and that could be, as I've said, any form, a PSP, an asset manager. They would come to us, they would sign our T's and C's, we would do the introductions to what LPs, liquidity providers fit their strategy, and then they would have to go through various KYB processes, and then they can start trading and they can use our tool. But to do that, they've got to have some kind of knowledge or internal processes of how they want to manage risk, how they want to do their clearing, settlement, execution, all these kind of strategies. Whereas now a client can come to you, Bequant will take care of all the prime brokerage things that you've talked about, so that you can do everything for them. So I just think it makes it really easy. You can onboard your clients very quickly and easily through our sub-account model. They're anonymized from us, so we don't see the end client. So again, that's offering some form of protection. And then you can manage the risk. They can manage some of the risk on their side. But at the end of the day, I guess it's like having someone, it'd be like us managing our own pensions versus some prime brokerage managing our pensions for us. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't have the first clue of what to do with mine. So I think it gives institutional players that confidence with Bequant in the middle, that also everything's going to be all encompassing and all get taken care of. And it's very easy. If they're connected, if they just go to you, that means that they're automatically connected, but they won't necessarily see Finery Markets. You might say to them that we're getting the OTC liquidity from Finery Markets, but the partnership relies solely with you, with your clients.
Great, thank you.
So now you've formed the partnership, you've been exchange only up till now for liquidity. How was adding the OTC liquidity, how has that changed your operations? How has it really affected your business internally?
Yeah, it's the very short and simple answer is it's completely complementary. Obviously, providing centralized exchange access is what we started the business doing. We slowly brought in decentralized exchanges into that as well. And there's different arbitrage strategies or different ways of trading that people want to access those two different venues. As we've accelerated our OTC plans, we're just adding an additional pool of liquidity. Now, on our own, we have to go and bring on those liquidity providers, and we've got a good subset of providers that we can provide access to. However, we didn't have an efficient way to necessarily deploy that to our clients, and that's where Finery Markets comes in. And it's just made it a much more efficient way for our clients to be able to access that additional liquidity pool. From a technology point of view, it's been relatively easy to integrate. It kind of looks like another exchange. Because of your technology stack and the way you can integrate with fixed connectivity, it's been very straightforward and hasn't taken us very long to be able to implement that. So, as I say, it's just a very complementary added service that we can provide as a prime broker. Ryan, we've touched upon, I guess, the core product and what Finery Markets is doing right now. Where do you see the future going? What else is Finery looking at introducing for clients?
I think it's very important to get deeper liquidity. We're currently talking to, in final negotiations with a number of tier one liquidity providers that you know about. We won't mention them, but I think we've been going since 2019, and I think it's very much chicken and egg. Mm-hmm. The tier one liquidity providers want you to have a whole stack of takers on this side so that they can consume their liquidity, and the takers want you to have the tier one liquidity makers. So I think we're now at that point where we've built up enough loyalty, we've shown how reliable we are with our uptime, etc., that now we are getting the tier one liquidity providers actually knocking on our door and saying, right, 3 years ago wasn't the right time, but now is the absolute right time. So we are a platform, a technology platform and a marketplace. So I think we absolutely need to build out on that side. Of course, we're looking to add takers all of the time. And now with FM Liquidity Match, when we talk to different clients now, they're finding whole new ways of using FM Liquidity Match. Like some clients are not even using it to onboard external clients. They're using it to internalize and trade internally and manage with the sub-account model, manage all their internal trading and to make it quicker and faster, etc. So I think that will evolve itself, FM Liquidity Match. And I hate to say this to you, Brett, but we will be gaining and working with more PBs in this area but only when they get to the level of where Bequant are, where they're offering what I would say is a level of true prime brokerage that will give takers the confidence that they want to use them?
Yeah, I think don't rush to bring them in. But I think in this, we're still, the digital asset space is still a small market. And as the institutional participants from traditional markets come into this space, I think there's plenty to go around. So I think competition is a healthy thing. I think this marketplace needs to work together, as we've seen from the problems of the last kind of 18 months or so. And so as much as I would say, please don't bring them in quickly, it's inevitable. We're fully aware of that. Hopefully we've stolen a march on a few people. But ultimately, I think dialogue is also good, and we need to have conversations around how we can advance this market. And Finery can help do that. You can take ideas from the different prime brokers and start to say, well, hold on, we think this is maybe a best practice that we can adopt. So we'd actually potentially look to Finery to help shape the future of where the OTC market is, and how we all interact with each other.
Brett, whenever you form a new partnership and start consuming new technology, there are challenges. We've been working together and partnering together for quite some time now. What challenges did you face once FM Liquidity Match was integrated into Bequant?
Yeah, look, I think any new partnership is going to have its challenges. You're not just going to be able to go into a marketplace and be able to pick something up, plug it in, and just off you go. So when we were doing that evaluation that I spoke of earlier, our risk looked at things, legal team, operational teams. There were some obstacles that would have stopped us from signing up and being able to use the service, but it was an open door kind of forum with you, and we put down our concerns. Finery were amazing. You didn't just say no like some service providers might in the industry. You wanted to work together and collaborate. So you looked at those, you understood our concerns, we had some conversations around it. I think some of our biggest issues were around the risk management side and the pre-trade and post-trade acceptance process. As I say, you listened, you helped to adapt parts of your system to alleviate any concerns that we may had. And for us, that was justification of the decision that we had made to actually go down and do the due diligence with Finery Markets, because it looks like a good solution. There are some minor concerns. You're very happy to adapt those, pick those up, work with us. And I think that bodes well for the future as well, because as you want to roll out new products, hopefully you can come to us, and hopefully we're a trusted partner, and we just work together going forwards. Likewise, we may have some clients that have some suggestions for you. And if we know that we've got an open door into Finery and we can bring those suggestions to you, you'll listen and you'll either be able to implement them, or you'll say, look, sorry, it's not something we can do right now, but it will be an open dialogue, I hope, going forwards. And that's important in any relationship.
I think that's one of the things that I've loved since I've joined this industry, just how fast-paced it is. The industry that you and I have both come from, it could take months just to get a decision, and then to get the technology built, changed, etc. just took forever. Whereas now, that's what I love about this industry most. We've built something in FM Liquidity Match where we've listened to clients on either side, and we've built what we know clients need rather than what we think clients need. But with the API connection as well, it's completely adaptable. So when people like yourselves come to us and say, can it be adapted in this way because this fits our business model, I think it's great that it's that open technology that can just be readily adapted. And if it makes sense, we just do it. I think that's what I've been really surprised about.
Yeah, it was a breath of fresh air, really, wasn't it? Coming from 20 odd years of traditional finance, where the industry is very set in its way, sometimes understandably so. If you need to get a regulatory approval, clearly that is going to take a little bit of time. That's the same in our space at the moment. As a regulated prime broker, we sometimes need to go and get those approvals, and they can be slow, and unfortunately that's the case in any walk of life. But the way we can adapt and we can engage with yourself or with other partners, even internally, if I want to try and get something done, and I think it's probably the technology stack that we're using. Banks are still in some places using 1980s architecture, And it's very difficult to be able to adapt. And it's not always the technology team's fault, it's they're using old tech. With the different technology that we have now, whether you're talking about fixed APIs and all this different type of connectivity, I think it's very easy for us to have a very open conversation, and we can all move at this very, very fast-paced way of working. Not always good. Sometimes I'd like it to slow down a little bit, especially on the 24/7 nature of it. But as I say, it was a breath of fresh air coming into this environment, being able to interact in a completely different way than I've been used to in my career. Ryan, look, it's been absolutely fascinating speaking to you today. I'm really looking forward to working with the Finery team going forwards. Perhaps you could just summarize or wrap up our session today with a few final comments.
So I think that the model that we're now embracing together is going to define institutional liquidity for both the makers and the takers. I think the prime brokerage model gives real understanding, real confidence to players on both sides of the market. And I think what Bequant are doing, and then leveraging our technology to add to all of the services that you currently provide, is only just going to enhance this marketplace. And I can't wait to see how this strategic alliance really pans out in the market, because we obviously believe it's game changing. Now it would be great to see the proof in the pudding going out for the rest of 2023 into 2024 and see how it evolves.
Great, and yeah, I know the team have found it a pleasure working with your team, and we're all looking forward to moving forwards and really establishing this relationship in the market.
I've really enjoyed today. It's been great talking about the future and what we anticipate is going to happen between our companies. So just to conclude, what would you say as a final closing statement?
Yeah, look, again, it's been absolutely fantastic speaking with you as well. I think we're thoroughly looking forward to working with the Finery team going forwards. We feel it's very important as a regulated prime broker in this space that we can partner with technology solutions such as yours to really try and help, I guess, move on from some of the turmoil of the last 18 months and try and help bring some trust and some confidence back into this space. And, we're regulated. We're hoping the MiCA rules will come in. That will then involve passporting throughout different European states and hopefully growing the market for both of us in this partnership going forwards, because I think this is the start of something very significant, and we look forward to working with you going forwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you.